Welcome to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw. I am your host. I am also a life transition coach. I am an author and a speaker, and I am so happy to be bringing this show to you, Change It Up Radio, because it's about change. That's what my work is about. That's what we really need help in dealing with. And actually, that's what our show today is about also. Change. Some beautiful, wonderful changes that our guest is trying to make on this planet. So stay with us because today we're going to be talking to Malte Niebelschuetz, and he is the CEO and founder of Shore Buddies. And I am so excited about this company and what they are doing in the world that I can't wait to share him with you. So please stay with us. But just before we bring him out, I want to remind you that if you would like to learn more about my work as a life transition coach or a speaker, or my books, which are Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say, Grief, When Will This Pain Ever End? And also Chakras, the Magnificent Seven. If you'd like to know more about that or get information about working with me, you can get that information on paulashaw.com. That's paulashaw.com. I also have a couple of free gifts for you on that website. One is a complimentary consultation with me if you would like to do that and learn more about my work, about your work, the work you want to do, and whether or not we can work together. I also have a great free gift on that site that is called 20 Things to Say and Not to Say to People in Pain, Emotional Pain. It's a great cheat sheet that really was taken from that book of mine, Saying the Right Thing When You Don't Know What to Say. So be sure to go to paulashaw.com and grab that gift. Also, if you would like to hear past shows, because we have had some amazing guests on this show, if you'd like to hear past shows, if you'd like to learn more about being a sponsor or a guest of this show, go to changeitupradio.com. That's changeitupradio.com. That's also where you'll be able to find the show notes on our guest today, his website, the work that they're doing, and so many other things. So remember, changeitupradio.com. All right, I don't want to keep you in suspense any longer because what's really important today is what Malte is going to share with us. But first, let me tell you just a little bit more about him. Malte Niebelschuetz is the founder and CEO of Shore Buddies. He's a German native who moved to San Diego in 2011. And like so many of us here, he was inspired by the beautiful coastline of Southern California, but also confused with the intensive use of single-use plastic and what it was doing to the environment of this precious coastal community. He took on the challenge to improve the world, and this is one of the things I love most about him. Shore Buddies was the way he decided to do that, and it was founded in 2014 and is the world's first stuffed animal made from 100% post-consumer recycled plastic bottles. And he has saved over 1 million plastic bottles from entering the environment in a harmful way and has turned them into cute, soft, cuddly, adorable animals. So from San Diego to the world, Shore Buddies are sold in 10 countries around the world. And this is a little teeny one of those guys right here. Isn't it adorable? And it comes with this amazing tag that tells you about the work they're doing. So we can not only give our children something wonderful to play with, but we can also educate them about something so important. So Malte, please join me so we can get into the conversation about what you're up to and how we can help. Hello.
Hey Paula, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm really excited for this.
Oh, I'm so glad you are because I really am. I should share with our listeners that I met Malte a couple of weeks ago at the Rotary meeting that I belong to in Rancho Santa Fe. And I was so moved by his presentation and by the work that his company is doing. I just said, you have to be on the podcast. And then it hit me that if we made it happen sooner rather than later, that you might luck out and know how to get one of these stuffed animals for your children for Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate at this time of year. So, Malte, I'm kind of always big on let's start at the very beginning. So, you moved here from Germany and fell in love with the coastline. But what made you decide to create Shore Buddies and try and make a difference in what was happening with the California coastline?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was more kind of like I always say the company kind of like picked me, right? I was just the one who was connecting the dots. But for me, was
Yes.
when I moved from Germany to California, I always was under the impression, California is the forefront of the green revolution. Everyone here is eco-friendly. Everyone here recycles. Everyone hugs a tree in the morning. California.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of confused me a little bit that in this like imaginary green California, everyone was still so okay with plastic, right? We buy everything in plastic. We have our to-go cups and coffee, and the iced coffee is in a big plastic cup. But at the same time, we also are very, especially here in San Diego, very excited about beach cleanups, right? So, and for
Mm-hmm.
me,
Right.
like growing up in Germany, I'm not saying there's anything better or worse, but the message when it comes to recycling and single-use plastic was a way different. And I was by no means, a big environmentalist or a big eco kid growing up, but I kind of had some, values that I like picked up just growing up, around recycling, around plastic and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And then for me, it was this big shock. You come to California and everyone is, and I feel that everywhere in the world, right? People are naturally good and trying to do the right things. We are all
Mm-hmm.
just a little confused what the right thing is, right? So like,
Exactly.
for me, it was like avoid single-use plastic and then coming here and people were not avoiding it, but then cleaning it up when it reaches the ocean, and I feel like there's like a little misconception here. So there must be a better way what we can do with this plastic before it reaches the ocean. And for me, it was literally one day looking for that green California, right? Cannot just be Tesla. And what I found was a company that's making T-shirts and jackets all from recycled soda pop bottles since the 90s.
Oh,
And
wow.
for me, that was mind blowing, right? It's like, oh my God, this is possible. You can do that. This literally is the solution to the big plastic problem we have.
Mm-hmm.
And name of this company, I'm sure your listeners, the audience are familiar with it. It's Patagonia, right? Huge outdoor brand and one of the,
Yes.
in my opinion, one of the most social impacting businesses, definitely in the fashion industry
Yes.
out there. And learning that that you can make a T-shirt or a jacket from recycled plastic bottles. I was mind blown. Oh my God, this technology exists. You can do that. That's incredible. And then entrepreneurial spirit kicks in, and I was looking for pen and paper after reading that article. And while I was getting up, read the article on my couch on my laptop. While I was getting up to look for pen and paper, literally the first thing I saw was a stuffed animal, and it popped into my head. It's like, okay, people
Wow.
need to from recycled plastic bottles, you can certainly make a stuffed animal, right? It's kind of like the same material. So what people always like ask me is like, oh my God, I cannot believe, they're made from recycled plastic. How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
And plastic mainly is oil and polyester is plastic, right? So instead of using new fossil fuel to create this new virgin plastic, we can use the plastic we have already created out there and turn it into something new, something adorable, like a stuffed animal. And with that, we can teach a kid, how to avoid plastic in the future. But that's a little long story.
Mm. For our video viewers, would you show us that animal again that you just held up quickly?
Yeah,
That
so this is
is
one of our characters. That's Finn the dolphin, and it comes with the educational information, right? So like we really do this for the kids to show them
mhm.
how they can impact and change the world for their liking, right? So we have like all this information in here, what we can do to reduce
Oh my goodness.
plastic out there. And also, what is really engaging is we put a little township in there.
I know. I have a seal here who makes a darling little sound too.
Yep, that's funny.
I got a kick out of Steven Seagal. I'm
He's
sure.
hanging right here.
Oh, he's hanging there. Yes. Oh, yes. I see him in the background. So I think, a lot of people are probably thinking, how on earth does a hard piece of plastic turn into something soft and cuddly? Could you talk a little bit about the process? How does this transition happen?
Yes, and there's videos, that always explains that better. So please go and check it out on the website. We have videos there that really goes through all the different stages of the making of a stuffed animal. But it's really creating the fabric is really what it is. And it obviously all starts with the plastic bottle. We get the plastic bottle shredded down in flakes, and then they all get cleaned, get purified, right? So you want to make sure, especially since it's a kid's toy, that there are no toxins, there are no chemicals or anything like that left
Yes.
behind. Really clean. And then the process is they get turned into like equally sized pellets, and that's the stage. Whenever you hear anything being made from recycled plastic, it has been at that pellet stage. And now our unique Shore Bodies process kicks in, where we take those pellets and melt them down, spin them around. I always say it looks a little bit like making cotton candy. And then we're creating our own yarn, creating our own fabric, and then 6 bottles, two for the keychain, two for the semi you have there, or you were holding up there, turn into one shore body. And yeah, it's a really cool process that is possible. I'm not the engineer behind it. Like it's for me as a founder, like I have to surround myself with very smart people, and they are very creative, have amazing ideas, and bring things like that to life.
Amazing process. And is that done here in the States?
We are looking to getting the infrastructure up in the States. So we are
Mhm.
working with factories right now that are able to create that process and
God.
getting into that. The plastic industry in the U.S. has been, or the recycling industry in the U.S. has been through different phases. So
Mhm.
2017, 2018, everything changed. Until then, a lot of the plastic we were consuming here in the U.S. were shipped overseas, and now slowly and steady we're seeing like the infrastructure getting ready for that, so that we hopefully by the end of next year might be able to create that fabric here in
Oh,
the US.
wow. Very cool. So was Patagonia the first people who came up with this process of making something wearable or usable out of, old, how do you say, uh, single use plastic? Plastic that had been used. Let's put it that way.
Right, yeah. That's a great question. I don't know if Patagonia was really literally the very first one, but
Hmm.
Patagonia is the one who brought it to the mass market, right?
Got
They
it.
were the ones who was like, okay, we are us, this is Patagonia, we have that market penetration and we
Mhm.
really want to do better. I mean, Patagonia is not only they do that, they have like they're also a great example for social impacting enterprise. They are B Corp and doing all of that, right? So they really have like all their bylaws and all their company like their company constitution for lack of a better word
Mhm.
right now. But all of that, they're really set up to do better in the world, right? So
Mm.
that's what we as Shore Buddies also kind of like really look towards, right? It's not just a product, right? It's like
Right.
you really want to do everything. So I'm a big believer in like businesses are the ones who can really, change the world to the better. So
Absolutely.
Patagonia is a great role model in all aspects.
One of the things you and I spoke about that I think is really true, and I'd like to bring to people's awareness is, so often we think it's just the nonprofits out there that are doing good things for the world or for the planet. But I love that you brought in the fact that business can be making a profit and also improving conditions on the planet. And that's what you're doing. And that was one of the things I love so much about Shore Buddies, because it isn't just about the profit. It isn't just about creating this thing for children, this toy, another toy for children, but it's creating education for children. It's creating, improvement on the planet. So let me ask you a question, Malta. How bad is the problem of plastic being discarded in problematic places on the planet? California, we
It
can look at specifically, but we know it's not just our problem.
right. It's so many different aspects. Like how bad is the problem? It's insane. Almost it's crazy, right? Like created that, and plastic is a product that just doesn't really go away, right? And
Yeah.
it's not even that long around. We invented the first piece of plastic in 1907. That's a little over 100 years, right? Like
Wow.
even with very optimistic statistic, where we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna say like, okay, plastic, gonna dissolve and decompose in like 400 to 500 years, right? No one
Mm-hmm.
actually has a proof that that is the case, right? Like we are not even that far in. But
Mm.
that also means that every piece of plastic that we created as human society is still out there somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of those plastics are finding the way into our oceans. I mean, there was a time where the waste management industry was literally considering the ocean as a good place to dump all the trash and all this
Oh,
plastic, right? So
oh,
that's what it created. But it's still getting worse than better, right? It's a global issue. I mean, in California, in San Diego, in the U.S., in many places, we have regulated recycling streams. We have regulated waste management. So we do think it's not ending up here. However,
mm,
we are consuming those products, right? It's literally from our
right.
everyday products. You just go through a grocery store aisle and you see so many
Oh,
products, packaged in
yes.
plastic. So we always easily say like, oh, it's Asia polluting, it's Africa polluting. In fact, it's really us. It's our consumer behavior. And that's why I'm happy, Paula, you brought that up, right? It's the businesses who need to do good, who need to do better. And in my opinion, it's the
Hmm.
businesses who have all the potential to change the world because they have to cater what the customer wants, right? So
That's
like
right.
customer is saying like, you are not
Hmm.
doing the right thing, I'm going to spend my money somewhere else, then the
Yes.
business is going to have a tremendous issue. If you are not having a product that the customer wants, you're very quickly going to be out of business.
That's
It's
right.
literally the easiest form of democracy.
Mm. Is there any kind of a worldwide organization that's controlling what we do with plastic?
There's no organization that is kind of controlling the United Nations. They have their sustainability goals they are bringing up, and a
Okay.
lot of businesses, a lot of corporations, they are using those as a guideline, as a standard. However,
Mm.
there's nothing really in place at the moment that
Wow.
is setting like, okay, this is the way it needs to be done. This is the way
Yeah.
it has to be. And that's why I'm seeing it's really the businesses who need to step up, right? So
Hmm.
it's always been the businesses. And like for me, it's been the small and mid-sized businesses who always have the biggest impact on the community. You know, and that's the
Right.
thing with with social capitalism.
Hmm.
Is now it's not just only the community, but it's also the entire world, right? It's the environment. It's many different aspects, and not just only creating a business that is benefiting the shareholders. And that's what I'm very proud of. That Sure Buddies is this business with not just one line it says revenue, but we have a double, triple bottom line why we exist.
Beautiful. You know what? We have to take a quick break, Malta, but we will be right back and I want to continue that conversation. So please stay with us. We will be right back. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio with Paula Shaw and my guest today, Malte Niebelschuetz. He is the CEO of an amazing company called Shore Buddies. And excuse me, his company is doing some wonderful work to help change the planet and clean up the problem that we have with plastic on this planet. So something just occurred to me, Malta. If there's no regulatory body that's having, implementing rules, laws, whatever about plastic and how we use it and how we discard it, then is really the key to making things better, changing people's consciousness?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and that's really a big point for us, right? And that's why Sure Buddies is about a stuffed animal, right? Education or protection starts with education, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
what it is. So we need to talk about the issue, and there are many organizations out there who are raising awareness about plastic pollution, what it all does, what harm it does for the environment. And this topic is really growing more and more into the mainstream, that we really do have a cause because we cannot ignore it anymore, right? Everywhere
Right.
we go. I mean, we in California are very blessed with our beaches, and they look very clean on the surface. But
Mm-hmm.
I think in San Diego, everyone has been at a beach camp once at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shocking, the amount of plastic, the
Oh,
amount of stuff you kind of find there, right? And you don't
yes.
have to look long, it's literally right there in front of us. And the truth is it doesn't go anywhere. So for us, we really want to talk about those sustainability issues, about recycling, about the impact that plastic has on the environment, on the animals, on the ocean, and
Yes.
eventually on ourselves too. Like it's really coming back to our own food chain. They say that we eat the equivalent of a credit card in plastic every single month, right? That's
No
shocking. So it's
kidding.
coming back to us, and it's
Oh,
affecting our
wow.
own health. It's not just only out there in the environment and the
Mm.
ocean far away. There is no far away, right? It's really coming back to us, and that's why I think we really need to start early. We need to talk about those issues about a very young age, and not just only be crazy about it. It's like, yeah, no, this is bad. No, we can talk about that, in a fun, playful way that we can improve the world. I like the word improve. Maybe that's my German background, right? Like we Germans have a word for everything. We just don't want to change. We want to have direction to it. So I always say, let's improve the world.
Uh,
And improving is like reducing plastic pollution. That's really what it is. Like it's a shocking number we have out there. We are
oh,
still adding 8 billion tons of plastic into the ocean every single year, and that's
no.
not just out there already, right? This is literally what
Oh,
we keep adding. So we really need to turn the tide. We need to change that up. That we reclaiming more plastic out of the ocean. That we start cleaning up. Right now, we are band-aiding a problem. We are not fixing it. We're just putting a band-aid over it, right?
yes,
It
yes.
it really need to change. I always say if you come home on a Friday night and your kitchen is flooded, right? The first thing you do is not picking up a mop and start cleaning up. you really check first if the water is still running. Otherwise, you're fighting windmills. So what we need to do with the plastic pollution is we need to stop adding more. We need to turn off the tap and educate the kids. And it's fun. Everyone always says the kids are our future. No, the kids are they making the impact right now because they gonna talk, right? The kids are
Yes.
influencing. Ask any parent, ask anyone out there, like dad, mom, like their biggest influence, their kids.
Totally, totally. So tell us a little bit about the educational programs that you guys provide, which I am crazy about that idea. I'm a former elementary school teacher, so when I looked at your website and I saw those little faces, and you can see the level of concern that they have in the things you're sharing with them. And I love it. I love it. I want you to talk about that, but it just reminded me when I graduated from college, Jacques Cousteau spoke at my graduation ceremony. And you may be too young to know who he was, but Jacques Cousteau was an amazing oceanographer, scientist. And what he did to raise our awareness and our love of ocean creatures and our concern about trying to keep the ocean pure was he brought the animals to us in wonderful stories in these little docudrama type series that he would create. And so I love that idea of starting with the young ones and teaching them, integrating into them a love of the ocean, of the sea creatures, and of keeping them all healthy and strong. So
Yeah,
how do
absolutely, absolutely. It's a story time, right? And it is interesting to see, like the first like ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau or Sylvia Earle, another big hero in that sector. It's
mm-hmm.
they went out there and they explored and the ocean, and they brought the ocean into the classroom. And
Yes.
especially the Cousteau family, right? Now Ashley and Paul, is it Paul Gusteau or Lucas Gusteau? Anyway, his kids are now, right, to keep
Ah.
his legacy alive. They
Ah.
dedicated everything to ocean protection, and they are all against, fighting ocean plastic pollution and all of that, right? So Jacques Cousteau is like, okay, this is the wonderful beauty of the ocean and this and that, and now the next generation, his kids is like, well, we need to all the great stuff he talked about is in danger, so we need to focus on that now, right?
That's
So that's
right.
kind of like where we are. But yeah, 100%. It is the storytelling. So it's what we have. We have programs where we work with the schools, where we work with local nonprofit organizations, and we cannot be everywhere, right? So we developed an entire curriculum. We'll pass like the shore buddies in there,
Mm-hmm.
and give that to teachers so they have that lesson plan, right? So they always can go back to that because those events are great and good, right? And as a kid, you get excited. It's like, oh, there's something different today. Like
Mm-hmm.
someone's coming to class and talk about that. Like it kind of like sits. But what we really do is we keep the shore buddies in the classroom, right? So like the animals are staying with them and they are constant reminder. And for the teachers,
Oh.
it's very easy to do to pick up that conversation again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because education is the most important thing, everyone knows that out there, whoever studied for a test, it's repetition, right? You have to talk about
Right.
again and again and again. If you only see
Right.
that once a year, someone comes about, plastic pollution, all right? That was that topic for that week, the next topic is something else. But if we have that in the classroom and see the shore body in the classroom every single
Mm-hmm.
time, it kind of like reminds us about that this is really needed. And also, what our passion is really to bring sustainability into play, right? It's a kid's toy, and
Yes.
learning doesn't stop in the classroom. Like we learn the most as human beings when you're playful, fun, exciting ways. So we provide this entire edutainment ecosystem to the shore bodies, right? It's not just only on the hang tag. We have like story times where we have videos, we have a shore body show. It's kind of like think about Disney Club meets John
Ah.
Oliver.
Uh-huh.
So we have really talk about, all those kind of aspects there in an educational way. We have games coming up that you can play on your smartphone. So really incorporate this entire edutainment
Mm.
platform, bringing sustainability into play.
Oh, I can't tell you how I love hearing everything you've just said. I took one of the first environmental studies classes in my college curriculum. It was not part of most college curriculums. It was kind of new, but I was going to college in a beach town, so there we were. But I was so moved by becoming aware of the problems and then wanting to help with educating, exactly like what you are telling me. But you know what, Malta? There were no materials. I had to create everything myself. I had to come up with the lesson plans and all that. So when I saw that you provide all that for the teachers so they can keep this beautiful awareness and growth going, that was just another way I became a big fan of your company and the work that you're doing out in the world. So let me ask you, if I'm somebody listening to this show and I go, wow, this is a problem, obviously. I wasn't aware. I know when you mentioned that statistic about the billions of pounds of plastic and garbage that are going into the ocean, I was shocked. I really had no idea the problem was that huge. So, what can we do? What can the average person do, and how can they help?
That's a great question. It's really checking your own actions, right? Lead by example, and it's we especially in California, we kind of like tend to go to extremes, right? So it's like, all right, we need to stop everything. We need to be zero waste. We need to be zero this and that. And I think it's a wrong approach a little bit. We
Mm-hmm.
don't need, everyone to be zero waste. We should iterate in little steps, right? If we have
Mm-hmm.
100 people who are 80% like, checking their actions and seeing what's going on and changing their lifestyle to a better, we already accomplishing a lot. And that's really
Yes.
the goal that we have is we have one tool in our website. So every listener, please go to surebuddies.com right now. Check it out. We have a plastic footprint calculator there, right? It also protection starts with awareness, right? And that's like
Mm-hmm.
getting aware first, like how big of the problem I actually am myself, right? And
Yes.
realizing that I also have all the tools already to make a difference, right? It's not like, it's so easy to point the finger at anyone. It's like, oh yeah, like this needs to change. But why
Mm-hmm.
not start? Big Michael Jackson fan growing up, and he had that one song, start with the man in the mirror. And this is really the way to do it, like check
Yes.
yourself before you wreck yourself. You really can have a major impact by all the actions you have, and it's not only just try it out, just try it out. What you give out in the world, it goes in waves, it amplifies. Go down to your local beach, pick up a couple of pieces of plastic, pick
Yes.
up a couple of pieces of trash. People look at you like, what are you doing? Maybe someone starts a conversation and they are inspired, they're inspired to do the exact right next thing. And that's again why we are working with the kids so much, like they are asking the why questions, and then we give them the why, we give them the reason, and they amplify that message. They start talking to their friends, they start talking to their parents, they start talking to their
Yes.
grandparents, it really, really amplifies. And
Yes.
we do that exercise when we work with the schools, right? Before the assessment, before that class goes through that Sure Buddies curriculum, we do the plastic footprint calculator and see how much plastic each kid uses in the family. And then after this 8 lesson program, we do it again. And it's the numbers are shocking, people getting aware and they're happy to implement those changes.
Oh my goodness, that is such good news. So that gives us all hope. I think that through awareness, through education, through recycling and creating something else out of this plastic that probably isn't going to go away for a very long time, that we really can change what's going on here. We really can improve the planet. So let me ask you a question. What is your What is your hope? You're obviously a dreamer, an inspired being, a doer, an entrepreneur. If it all works as well as it can, what's your dream for what'll happen?
My dream really for what has happened is that we reverse the trend first, right? So this is the big goal is, as I say, we're still adding more plastic into the ocean that we're putting out there. And I think the big
Mhm.
milestone, for the plastic pollution movement is really that we reverse that trend, that we come up with numbers like, hey, we're getting actually more plastic out of the ocean now than we are putting in there, right? And that's not
Yes.
only impacting the ocean. Everyone talks about plastic in the ocean, but it's, there's plastic in our forest, there's plastic in our desert. It's literally everywhere. So we need to find a way to reduce the plastic production. We need to find alternatives and then really reversing the trends, right? This is really when the cleanup is happening, is when we
Yes.
are removing from the environment instead of adding on a bigger scale. And
Mm.
I think the way we're going to achieve that is by inspiring those young minds, right? Like educating them about the issue at a very young age,
Yes.
that will maybe instill some passion in it, right? I remember like when I was in school and the fireman came in, I wanted to become a fireman, it was cool stuff
Yes.
they were doing, like why not have the same experience with oceans? Like, okay, wow, this is crazy. This is, wild. So why not, become a scientist and create the robots that are eventually gonna cleaning up and picking up the plastic from our oceans?
Hmm. Well, look how many less people smoke now, because I remember them coming into our schools and talking about how smoking could lead to cancer, lung cancer. But who knew that before that? Smoking was kind of glamorous. So, and in our lifetime, we've seen something amazing happen with pretty much the destruction of plastic straws. I mean, now everybody wants to either carry their own straw or use paper straws. I mean, it's not complete yet. There are still plastic straws out there, but what a big movement to get rid of something that was so problematic. So,
Right, right. And Paula, I love that you brought that up. Like smoking is such a perfect example, right? We're always getting so frustrated. It's like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. How do we ever get out of that? We quickly forget as society that it's always kind of been like that, right? Like there's a problematic situation happening that we are, around for a decade, and trying out new things, and then kind of like, okay, they didn't work out, so well, let's move and fix that, right? So, and I
yes.
feel like that's human history. That's our story. That's literally our story. Like we're doing things that some financial interests maybe behind that, kind of like pushed that agenda. But then we realize as society is like, hey, that's probably not the best idea, and we can fix it. We can fix it,
Yes.
like nothing is set in stone. We can turn things around, we can change the tide, we just have to first get aware of it and then realize we already have the tools to fix it.
Oh, I love that. It's a perfect place for us to conclude this interview. But first, please tell our listeners where they can get Surf Buddy stuffed animals, and if they are interested in an educational program or something else, where do they find this information, Malta?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please check out the website. Go to shorebuddies.com. Find them there. I'm happy to give a little discount to all the viewers, to all the listeners. So use code Ocean20, gives you 20% off
Oh,
at checkout on shorebuddies.com. So make sure you get your holiday gifts in early. We can still ship them in time for the holidays. If you're interested into have shore buddies come to school, do a Zoom lesson or something like that, use the contact us form on the website, reach out, mention that that's something you would be interested. We'll send you the information on that, how we can make that happen. But yeah, check out the website, shorebuddies.com. You can order the plushies there. You can order reusable straws. We have a selection of a couple of reusable straws there as well. And use code Ocean20 for 20% off at checkout.
beautiful. Malta, thank you for being my guest today. And in an even much bigger way, thank you for everything you're doing for the world. I'm so delighted that you were on my show today. And to my listeners, please get your Christmas lists out and just cross off everything else that you were going to get and put down Shore Buddies. That's what I'm doing for my nieces and nephews. And now you get a discount. So let's all work together. Let's make this planet healthier and happier. And remember, if you learned something on this show, or if you want to share this information, please share this show and like us and subscribe and help us grow so that we can keep bringing this kind of information to lots and lots of listeners out there. You can hear us on every podcast platform, including iHeartRadio, Blog Talk Radio, and Patagonia. So please find us and share us. Thank you, Malte, for being with me today. And I look forward to seeing you again in the future soon. And don't forget, you'll be able to find Malte's information on shorebuddies.com. And if you're driving and you can't write things down, don't worry, because this will all be in the show notes on changeitupradio.com. Until next week, thank you for listening. Bless you, Malte. Take care.
Paula,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much for having me. Goodbye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.